Welcome students to ForumIAS. So today we are going to see orientation class for augmented test series for batch 2023, right? Previous year in 2022, from this batch we saw two final selections. This year one person became IPS and one person is going to become, I think, IRS with that rank, right? So I will not give this and that directly. We are going to come to the point and we are going to do an analysis of a result of UPSC, right? A result of 2022, right? Because students are very curious about what was the performance of this optional in year 2022. What were the highest marks, how much people got selected, etc., etc., right? So around 60 people got selected. Finally 60 people got selected from this optional, that is public administration, number 1. Number 2, the highest marks is around 295 marks, and one thing which must be noted here, that the person who is scoring this much marks is not in top 100, right? Because usually what happens is, specifically to this year if you are scoring 285 plus marks, you will find that they are coming under top 100, right? But this year the highest marks with public administration is 295, right? Then rank wise, rank 31, I think her marks is around 292, right? This year marking was little bit strict, because if we analyze the average marks for selection this year, so let us start first from essay, right? I hope that you may have seen mark sheets of at least 10-20 people, right? I have seen around 150 mark sheets. On the basis of that, and when I am telling you 150 mark sheet, it means that this include something, let us say rank 750, rank 550, rank 50, rank 10, so that we can calculate an average marks for coming into the final list, right? So in essay, the average marks which we see this year is around 135 marks, right? When it comes to GS, general studies, rather than talking specifically about GS1, 2, 3, 4, what we are going to do, we are going to take overall approach, and around 420 marks is a kind of okay marks for selection, right? Now come to interview and your optional subject, whatever optional you are having. The average marks of this year is 275. 275 marks in your optional, and around 170 marks in your interview. So this is always same. 170 marks more or less you will find every year. The average marks of interview for coming into the final list is 175, 170, sometimes it also goes around 165, 160. So how much? 135, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, right? Around 1000 marks, more or less, something like we will get. It may be less, I think some 20 marks, is 970, 980, something like that we will get finally. But in 990, you are going to come under what? Under 75. And if you are from general category and if you want to become IAS, it is advisable that your strategy should be like that you are coming under rank 7, 5, that is the golden rank. Right? Now come to public administration as an optional, because one misconception is that whether this optional will give us selection or not. It is giving. Two people, I told you, they have performed very good in this subject, right? And public administration right from 2018 is performing well, right? Although total number of people who are appearing in mains with this optional, they are very less when we compare same with some other social science optionals, right? Come to what should be the standard criteria for taking any optional. Standard criteria for optional. There are some standard criteria for optional which applies on any optional. If any optional you are taking, if on these parameters or criteria that optional is working, then it means that the optional which you have chosen is fine. But choosing the optional simply does not ensure your selection, right? After choosing the optional, you need to tackle that optional with the right strategy. And that strategy, many times, we have seen that that strategy is not followed properly. Not about only optional. Same applies with your general studies also. Either it is ethics, integrity and aptitude, either it is essay, either it is GS1, 2, 3. In interview also, right? Because optional plays a very important role if you want to join IAS, IPS or Indian Foreign Service, right? See, if let us say there is an optional X. There is an optional X, right? If, let us say, more people are getting selected from this, we only see only one picture, but even 3-4 times people, they may have been excluded from the final list. Right? Iska ulta, that also we can see. For example, there is one optional philosophy. Right? Philosophy. One optional is there, philosophy. In 3-4 years, you will find very less people are taking this optional. But do you know how much marks this optional is scored this year? 319 marks. Very good performance. So, what about the idea that philosophy is not a good optional? If you are preparing, right, if you are a repeater, if you are preparing, let's say, for 2 years, you may be knowing this. Very less people were recommending this optional, but this year marks have came in this optional. So it means that UPSC is giving marks to the optional. What we need is the right strategy to tackle that optional. And the strategy which I will tell you, it is simply coming after evaluating your copies only, right? previous year we have evaluated lots of copies of public administration, those who have written mains, right? After that, even there was October batch, right? So all the strategy I am going to tell you, but let us come to this point, that is standard criteria for any optional. See, the first and most important criteria for optional must be subject of interest. You should be interested in the subject, because what is going on, UPSC preparation demands 2 years, at least 2 years of rigorous preparation. And there will be time when you will feel depressed, demotivated, because it is a human behavior. When we used to do, we also used to face same thing, you will also face. And during those time, optionals play very important role, because usually what happens, if the optional which you have taken is your subject of interest, you will not feel bored. You will sail through the preparation during the difficult times. And public administration as a subject is an interesting topic to read, right? Then another criteria which I have seen, which is when they are asking the question, when students are asking the question, they ask optional which is small. See, what is difference between optional which is small and optional which is long? It simply means that any optional which take 4 months, rigorously 4 months for completing, it means that that optional is small. But after 4 months, you need to add 2 months for what? For answer writing, which, my dear friends, I have seen that students think that after reading PubMed for 4 months, everything is over. And they usually leave this 2-month window of answer writing. So total, this optional is taking 6 months. Long optionals, usually such as maths, itself will take 6 months just for reading, just for rigorous reading. It may also take 8 months. Right? So public administration on this criteria is small. Total, there are 29 thinkers, but I will teach you around 32 thinkers. Because with the rise of China, as a student of administration, you must know something about Chinese administration. Right? What are the governance aspects which we can learn from China? What is the structure of their governance? Although in your syllabus 28 are given, but 4 to 5 extra thinkers I am going to teach you. Right? The third criteria which any student wants is easy. I don't think I need to tell you this point, because public administration as an optional is known to be easy. Paper 2 you may have read, right? Because I'm expecting that at least you may have read one chapter, one thinker, or one topic before watching this lecture, because obviously we are discussing about the test series, mains test series. And obviously, mains test series, the question comes only when, if you have done even one time reading of the subject, right? paper one of every social science you need to understand properly because they are conceptual. Take any social science optional, either it is PSIR, either it is sociology, either it is public administration, either it is philosophy, either it is history. Paper 1 needs theoretical aspect. Right? See, if you are taking any social science optional, always remember that paper 1 is the key. Right? So on this parameter also, this optional, that is public administration, performs well. Then obviously guidance must be there if you are taking any optional. For example, I will give you one example. You may have heard about this subject, geology. Now, it has been seen that in 2, 3, 4, I think in 5 years, people who were having geology, more or less, they have shifted to some other subject, let's say geography, chemistry, or even to public administration. Why? Because hardly any selection was there with this subject, and one of the main reason for poor performance of this subject is lack of guidance. This is truth which we need to accept. Right? Then this parameter is also important because this paper optional is only 2 paper. You have 4 papers of GS and 1 paper of essay, which plays a deciding role in the final selection. So general studies link with the optional must be there. Right? Now come to this point, I want to elaborate little bit. I will not take much time, hardly 3-4 minutes. Right, I am having little bit cold, so just bear with me. General studies link. Right? See, both dimensions are there when we talk about general studies link specific to this subject. Right? Positives are also there, negatives are also there. Both dimension I am going to tell you. Positives, right, and negatives. Both dimension one must know. Right? See, if you are having public administration as an optional, it is going to help you much in GS2, especially the polity part. Right? Content-wise, it is going to help you. Content-wise, remember this. I am telling you again and content-wise, it is going to help you very much. Right? Come to GS3. GS3, you are having internal security. Little bit economics also, content-wise, it will help. When it comes to GS4, case studies, you are going to get lots of help, because what happens when you are studying this optional? So what exactly is the day-to-day function of district collector or district manager or commissioner or principal secretary? We are going to see in this optional. So obviously, if you have that width in your knowledge, it is going to help you in case studies. And it has been seen that every year 2 to 3 case studies are directly coming from civil services. Directly coming from civil services. Right? Then come to GS1, although the link is very less here, especially the disaster management part, and disaster management will go here. GS1 may the society part you are going to get lots of help. Right? Because when we are reading paper 2 and we are covering challenges before public administration or administrative issues which our country is facing today, we are going to cover the same thing is overlapping with your GS1. And obviously, if essay is non-abstract means non-philosophical, it is going to help. Anyway, any optional will help you in essay. Right? Any social science optional is going to help you in essay if the topic which UPSC is asking is non-philosophical. But at the same time, there are some problems also which, according to me, if you'll ask me, I always tell public administration students that is the biggest weakness on which they don't work. Please try to avoid this, because we have seen that the moment a student is taking pub-ed optional and when he or she is completing this optional, then he thinks that more or less GS is complete, right? So those areas on which GS topics which are not overlapping with this optional, they will simply cover that and they will think that everything is over. Sorry, that is not the picture. Right? So, after completing the optional, your proper focus must be on completing or covering general studies also. Right? So what students are doing, they are ignoring general studies, both content as well as answer writing. Usually you will see that a person is scoring very good marks in optional, but where they will score less in GS, GS3, sometimes even in GS2. See, if a person having public administration as a background is scoring poor marks in GS2 with lots of content, then there is a problem in answer writing, not in content. Right? GS1, okay, we can accept, but not in GS2 and GS4, and many times it has been seen that GS2 and GS4, they are performing not very good only due to one thing, because they are ignoring while they are doing preparation, simply because they think that the syllabus is overlapping, so I have covered this part also. That is not the case. So, while writing mains 2023, please keep these things in mind which I am telling you. Right? The second aspect is answer writing. Right? See, public administration as a optional demands little bit more answer writing as compared to other optional. See, honestly, every social science optional demands little bit command on answer writing. Right? But same type of, same style you can't apply both in GS as well as in optional. Same thing you can't apply. So try to differentiate what exactly is the approach of answer writing. See, when I say answer writing, specifically I am talking about paper 2. Paper 2 of what? Public administration. Because what happens, paper 2 people are writing like what? General studies. General studies paper 2 and public administration paper 2, they are different. The name of paper is public administration and there the name of paper is polity, constitution and governance, also international relations. So obviously if they are different, then you need to follow little bit different strategy. Content may be same, theme may be same, even the UPSC, the question which it is asking may be overlapping. But my dear friends, your answers must not be overlapping. Right? Now come to strategy which one should follow, and I hope that when you are going to write, when you are going to write 8 years test, in every test you are ensuring that you are following this strategy. Right? So before discussing strategy, we are going to see exactly what is the problems in paper 1. Because obviously, before evolving any strategy, one must understand exactly what are the problems a student is facing while reading this subject. So the first and the basic problem is lack of conceptual clarity. Lack of conceptual clarity. On concepts, people are very weak. There is a difference between public choice approach and new public management. Now, exactly what are those differences? People are not clear on that. That we must avoid. You take any optional, if you are not having conceptual clarity in paper 1, right? Chahe jitna books you read, nothing will happen. Result is not going to come if you are not having conceptual clarity. Read as much book as you want. But if you are having conceptual clarity, by reading 3 books, you can cover paper 1 completely. Number 1. Number 2 is poor command on thinkers. See, in social science, your answers must not be very general. Now then question comes how it will be specific. Specific will be if you have good command on thinkers. You must clearly know when to use MP Follett. You must clearly know when to use Dwight Waldo. One must clearly know when we should use Peter Drucker. Let us say he has given management by exception. Right? So when we are talking about personal administration, we must focus on Peter Drucker's idea of management by exception and management by objective. Let me write that. Management by exception, management by exception, that is called MBE, management by objectives. That is called MBO. You know why I wrote this? I wrote this because I have seen that many people think that both are same. Both are very, very different. That is what I am telling you. Both are completely different. Both are ideas of Peter Drucker. For example, I will give you one example. It will be very easy for you. So, Henry Fayol says, one must perform this at the top level. Managerial function is what? Post-corp. Right? And what is our reporting? So, according to Henry Fayol, right, a junior must report every activity to senior every day. On daily basis, he or she must report. But Peter Drucker gives the idea that no, rather than, so let us start again, some technical issue was there, so right, nothing to worry. So I was telling you about management by exception. So Peter Drucker says, no, we don't need to follow reporting every day. So this idea is obviously against Henry Fayol's idea or the classical thinker. Now the question is whether the idea of Peter Drucker is behavioral or not. Where you will classify Peter Drucker? Either he is modern thinker, either he is behavioralist thinker, or either he is neo-behavioralist, either classical, because the Marxist even argues that Peter Drucker is once again classical thinker. Right? Now here, this aspect will play important role that one should have very good command on thinkers. Right? So one problem which I was telling you, people are having misconception, confusion. These both are not same things. They are completely different. Right? Now come to third aspect. Right? Third aspect is related to understanding the question demand. Right? Understanding the demand of question. Right? Number 4 is presenting the answer properly, which means simply that what have been asked, you are not answering that, rather than you are answering something else. You are writing something else. You are not answering what question is asking, rather than you are simply writing what you know. And this thing is not tolerated in UPSC, because if you are doing this, then it gives a very bad impression on your behavior as well as simply on your copy. Right? So we need to work on these problems. Right? So, strategy for paper 1. Strategy for paper 1. So, number 1, you should have good command on thinkers, all the 32 thinkers, although in your syllabus, I think some 28 has been given. Right? So one good thing with this test series, right? One good thing with this test series is you are going to get notes. If you are joining ATS Plus, you are going to get notes, right? You are going to see, for example, Dwight Waldo is here, right? So total, I think you'll get 50-page notes of paper 1 and I think 40-page notes of paper 2. Whole syllabus is covered in that, right? So, for example, Dwight Waldo, very briefly important points are written which we need to understand as a student. The main crux points which we need to focus, and these notes are completely dedicated for mains only. What is the problem with these 2 months? Time is less, but we need to give very high output in that. Right? We need to prepare for all the GS, we need to prepare for essay, we need to prepare for 2 papers or optional. Right? So obviously time span is less. So this 50-page notes, they are going to help you much, right? Anyway, I'm going to tell you references also, but the notes which you will get, please try to read them properly, understand them properly. Those along with value addition class which you will get, the value addition class more or less is revolving around these notes only. This 50-page notes, whole syllabus is covered in that. For example, we are having Dwight Waldo. Little bit in one line, the background is given. Who was Dwight Waldo? He was a public servant, academician who focused on development of theory in a development administration. Here it is written administrative, but it is development administration. That is why you will find one thing, always theoretical questions are coming on Dwight Waldo. Because Dwight Waldo is one of that thinker in public administration who tried to develop theory. He may have failed, he may have not developed what he wanted to develop, but at least the questions which he has raised, UPSC is asking. Right? For example, emphasizes that public administration has a social purpose. It is a value-laden administration. What is this? This is nothing but new public administration. So I always say that whenever question is coming on new public administration, simply remember Dwight Waldo, right? After that, in a very brief way, his view on administration and politics, on democracy, bureaucracy, because he rejects the orthodox model of politics administration dichotomy and he believes in heterodox model, and he believes in that politics and administration must work together. They should work in a fusion. Right? After that, criticism, then Peter Drucker. Very briefly, Peter Drucker is given. For example, administration is art because it needs to be perfected by practice rather than scientific. And Frederick Wilson Taylor wanted to study administration as science. In opposite to that, Peter Drucker says, no, administration is art which needs to be perfected by continuous practice. Right? We need to do continuous practice. Right? Then his ideas on leadership, management by exception, right? So simply a glimpse I am giving you. Like that, you will get 50-page notes, right? So I will request you to please go through the notes thoroughly. After reading the notes, you will realize the importance. Right? Then please read this book, new horizons of public administration properly. Properly means समझ में आए. You should be able to understand, not just for the sake of reading, you are reading that. Right? And when you are doing, the weakest aspect is answer writing. After writing 2-3 copies, students usually don't come. Very less students write all the test. Please don't do that. Hardly it is a matter of 2-3 months. These 2-3 months will make or break your career. Right? And remember one thing, while writing answers of paper 1, write less points but elaborate it properly. Because what will happen, the questions which you will get in paper 1, mostly conceptual clarity is there. If you are having conceptual clarity, so obviously examiner or evaluator wants to see what clarity you are having. So usually what happens, they will read your copy. When they are reading your copy, they will see how much elaboration you have done on the specific concepts. Right? Write less points, but elaborate every point properly. Okay? After this, the last thing I will tell you for paper 1, right? For paper 1, you may have heard about this, that we need to connect paper 1 with paper 2, either with the help of case study, best practices. See, I will tell you one thing. If you can connect paper 1 with paper 1 itself, that is also appreciated. Every time it is not that paper 1 must be connected with paper 2. Every time same thing is not followed. It is not possible to do, because questions are framed according to these things only. So if question is framed on this aspect, why जानबूझ के ये सब, why you need to do? Right? Then one question is whether one should write in paragraph or in points. Paragraph or points. Very old debate, right? Very old debate in UPSC answer writing, in optional, in GS, everywhere. So, as a student of public administration, try both. Try test series. Test series is a very good medium for working on your mistakes. Right? Because here I will tell you on what aspect which you need to work on that, then write next test, then improve, write next test. Right? Now, where to use that? So, if question is straightforward, then use paragraph. Because if question is very simple, see, everyone writes simple question. Everyone. You will not meet any of your friends who will simply say, okay, this question is easy, that I will not do. Everyone will write that. And the examiner is also knowing that. Right? But when questions are, let us say, in depth, difficult, try to write it in points format. Because what happens, Points format will ensure that evaluator is seeing the dimensions which you have covered while answering this question. So even if your answer is not up to the mark, he will give you more than average marks. Because in a difficult question, you try to discuss all the dimensions which question is going to ask. Right? Now come to paper 2. The problems which we usually have seen students are facing in paper 2. Problems in paper 2. Right? So the first problem and very common problem is that after reading the question, after writing, let us say, little bit content, now where to get more points? Right? And this problem comes basically from source. What to study? Right? What to study in paper 2? Because if you'll ask me, and honestly you may be also knowing, there is, take any optional of social science for paper 2, hardly any standard book is there. Same goes with public administration. Hardly any standard book is there. Right? Number 1. Number 2 is you understand the question, but the challenge is giving theoretical touch to answer. Right? Giving theoretical touch to answer. Number 3, I will tell you, see this year what has happened in PubMed, this year in 2023, marking in paper 2 we have seen it is very difficult. Paper 1 is fine. Paper 1 is fine. Paper 2, the markings, it is difficult. Very less people are there who have scored very good marks in paper 2. So it means that UPSC is having problem? No. Students are not following right strategy for paper 2. And one of the main aspect which you must ensure if you want to score very good marks in paper 2 is presentation. So the people who are scoring very good marks in paper 2, they are having very good command on the presentation aspect. See, you should focus on those aspects which is working in this exam. Because what is our goal? Our goal is simply our name should be in that holy PDF. So every strategy, everything which is working right now, we must ensure that after writing 10 tests in this year's ATS, we are very, very well versed with that strategy. Right? And number 4, role of previous year question paper is very high. Right? Especially the style of question framing. Paper 1 PYQ UPSC is asking. No problem. Right? Problem is not there. But what happens in the paper 2 PYQ, if questions are coming, answers are different. Because the paper is dynamic and it is connected to current affairs. That is why this problem source. Where to read? From where to read? Right? Now, what is the strategy we must follow in paper 2 of public administration? Strategy for paper 2. Right? Strategy for paper 2. Number 1, you should have very good command on presentation. Number 1. Number 2, write more points with less elaboration. Write less points, more points, less points we need to write in paper 1. More points with less elaboration. Number 3, if possible, not always, if possible, we need to give theoretical orientation to answer. Everywhere you don't need to do, and remember that examiner is also not expecting you that everywhere you are going to give this theoretical touch. It is not possible, because some questions are framed that with good presentation you can write that answer and there is no scope of theoretical aspect. Right? So unnecessary, we should not do that. Right? Number 4 is obviously using case studies, best practices, examples while writing the answer, and this is not a very simple thing. Why? Because what is happening, just for the sake of covering current affairs, students usually refer 2-3 sources. Please don't do that. Refer only one source. Right? Refer only one source. It is better. Please remember whatever you have covered in only one source rather than covering 2-3, sometimes even 4 sources people are covering. Right? Now I will tell you a little bit about this year's ATS 2023, what you are going to get in this mains test series. After that, I am going to tell you, right, the references or the sources which you must follow when you are preparing for this optional in 2 months. Right? So, there is going to be, the first thing is 6 sectional test. 6 sectional test paper I am framing. I have already framed, right? Then when you are submitting your copy, it will be evaluated. Some copies I will evaluate and some copies we are having very good evaluators. Then 4 full length test you will get. Right? So 6 sectional test you may find little bit easy, but 4 full length test will be difficult. Right? So you don't need to worry, because remember that the test series which you are writing in the institute, either it is your GS, your essay or optional, you are not writing on that basis, you are not going to get rank. But on that basis, you will improve your capacity so that the same mistake is not going to be repeated in the final D-Day. Right? Number 2. Before every test, there are 2 value addition classes. 2 value addition classes. And one class, usually it will consist of 2 hours class, right? And number 3, you are going to get 50-page notes of paper 1 and 40-page notes of paper 2. These notes are mains dedicated notes only, just for the sake of revision, right? By lots of hard work I have made that. Please read the notes. What I am telling you, you will understand. These notes are specifically focusing on your mains exam, right? So total 12 value addition class, because 6 sectional test you will get 2 value addition classes, right? So watch value addition class, after that attempt the test. And when you are completing value addition class, then refer to notes. So this thing I have added simply due to one thing, because there are lots of confusion among what to read. What are the correct sources for public administration? So even if you are not having, if you have not covered correct sources, even after that, more than enough concepts are already covered in this notes which you will get, right? The fourth aspect which you must not ignore, because these things are from my part, but the fourth is from your part, it should happen regularly, that is called mentorship. So you will come, you will write the test. When you are getting evaluated copy, please call the institute, take the appointment, and please discuss your copy with me. Then only the purpose of joining this test series is completed, right? Because if you are not doing mentorship, if you are not scheduling this mentorship, then see, many times what will happen, see, I will tell you, in this exam, I have seen many students, they are working very hard. But what happens, due to lack of proper guidance, है ना, जब तक उनको guidance मिला, either the attempt was over or time was over, that is age, right? Please don't do that, right? The mistakes which other students have done, please don't do those mistakes. If you are having this provision, right, and mentorship does not mean that every time you need to come with your copy here, even with call there is provision, right? So after evaluation of copy, call the institute, get an appointment. I will simply call you if you are not coming here, right? So these are the important aspect which you are going to get in this mains test series. Now the last thing which I will tell you, right, the references for public administration. Right? What are the references which you need to refer? You must refer. So number one is ATS plus notes of paper 1 and paper 2. Right? For example, bureaucratic approach of Max Weber. In 2 pages, Max Weber is completed here. So, background of Max Weber, little bit background you must know of every thinker because it has been seen that many times when UPSC is giving you question, right? Many times it is talking little bit about the background of that administration, right? And after, if you are having proper command on background of thinkers, then what will happen? You will not feel difficulty in understanding the question or question demand. Then why Weber wrote on bureaucracy, right? Not on every thinker I will tell you now, but simply I have taken one thinker. Then exactly what were the concepts related to bureaucracy which were developed even before Weber? Max Weber developed this idea. See, Max Weber took this idea from many sources. Max Weber is the thinker who for the first time properly developed idea on this topic, that is bureaucracy. Right? After that, we will see the idea, that is bureaucratic approach of Max Weber. Acha, also one thing I have seen that when we say conceptual clarity, for example, when we talk about authority, who should be the first thinker? You must think Chester Bernard. There is one concept which is associated with individual thinker. Decision making, Herbert Simon. Right? Conflict management, MP Follett. Science, Taylor. Right? Managerial role, Henry Fayol. Public administration has a social purpose. NPA, New Public Administration. Administrative ideas in private sector. Who is the thinker who is very famous? Peter Drucker. His ideas are very much used in private sector. Right? That is why the concept, all notes you will see, the first line it will start from the main idea which is associated with this thinker, and obviously after bureaucratic approach, criticism of bureaucratic approach will come, then how the ideas of that thinker is relevant today, because what UPSC is doing from this dimension, questions are coming from this dimension. And this same goes with every thinker. This goes with every thinker. What is the relevance of that thinker today? Right? Then conclusion. Right? So this was simply I was telling you about the notes which you will get. Please try to cover that thoroughly. Right? Then read New Horizons by Mohit Bhattacharya, number 2. Number 3, I will suggest you, please read IGNOU notes plus specific sources, for example, for financial administration, personal administration, administrative law, for example, MP Sharma. Right? Number 4. You may have heard about this second Administrative Reform Commission. My dear friends, a student of public administration must read second ARC report thoroughly. If you have not done that, please start reading second ARC report thoroughly. If you want to understand sorry, how to score good marks in paper 2 of public administration, right? If you want to understand that, refer to the ARC report, the style which they are following in answer writing. So what will happen after some time, after reading this report, your orientation will also be like second ARC. That is what is needed in this exam. Right? Then number 5, which report to read thoroughly? So 4th report, 5th, 6th, then 15th, then report on financial administration, personal administration. Then there is a report on organizational restructuring of government. These reports you must refer thoroughly. After these, you can simply read recommendations, for example, RTI, social capital, right? Then number 5, read topper's copy. Please read topper's copy as much as you can. In ForumIAS, you will get 2 topper's copy who were our student, right? Ketki Borkar, rank 666. Number 2 is Sandeep T, rank 764. Right? Go to ForumIAS website, you will get their public administration copies. Not only this, see, I will tell you, read as much copy if it is possible. Read the copy of all 60 people who has been selected from this optional this year. But remember that GS is the key. If you are having this optional, please don't ignore general studies, which many people have done. And then they will say this optional is not giving us marks. But if you see their marks, they are having less marks in GS. In one paper, they scored 70 marks in GS. And then a student will come and say, sir, should I change the optional? Question does not arise. Number 6, Indian Express or Hindu. Refer to any one newspaper, right? In both newspaper, governance areas are covered, economics areas are covered. Please make notes, write some facts, right? You don't need to refer to many sources for current affair. Number 6. Number 7, please don't refer to this. IIPA, please don't refer to this. I have seen that many students are, you will not able to understand what is written here because IIPA journals are basically for research purposes. Right? So their language is very different from what UPSC is following. Right? And obviously, important websites such as IMF, Niti Aayog, RBI, right? IIPA, Indian is, just see what is going on, right? What is going on. Then United Nations, right? Then planning boards of various state governments. Try to refer that and see what will happen. You have proper idea, okay, this is important from public administration perspective. Right? This thing is important from public administration perspective. So make notes, and that notes should be like that in last 10 days you are able to revise that. And please practice more and more answer writing in your essay, GS, as well as in this optional. right? Now, today we will stop here. Tomorrow again orientation class is there, but that orientation class is little bit different than this. Today we simply discussed the performance of public administration as an optional this year, then how many people qualified from ForumIAS test series, right? Then we discussed some misconceptions about this optional, because this optional, if one is taking, what are the areas which we need to keep in mind? Then we saw problem in paper 1, then we saw problem in paper 2, then very briefly we saw the strategy which we must follow while writing the answer. Then we saw very briefly the notes which you will get and the other provisions, for example, mentorship, 6 sectional test, 4 full length test, then classes which you will get. After that we saw references, right? Even after this, if you are having any query, please raise the query. Tomorrow again we are having one more orientation. Tomorrow I will discuss that. Today we are going to stop here, right? Thank you for watching this lecture.